Zira's expression, and she carefully brought her other freed hand up to cup Alara's face with both, holding the small human with a reverence usually reserved for holy relics. They began the removal that evening, starting with the outer segments of the suit. Each piece required precise harmonic resonance from Alara's modified tools and physical support as the crystal separated from Zira's essence. When the first shoulder plate released with a sound like crystal bells, Zira gasped, a full-body shudder that Alara felt through their connection and beneath the removed section. Her navy blue skin glowed with faint, beautiful scars. "Freedom," Zira breathed. "I'd forgotten what it feels like." They were halfway through the removal process, 3 of Zira's 4 arms fully freed and moving with liquid grace, when the temple's ancient defenses activated. Alara felt it first as a vibration in the floor. Then Zira's mental voice cried out in warning just as a massive construct materialized from the shadows, a guardian entity of pure crystalline energy and ancient metal. Its form vaguely humanoid but twice Zira's already impressive height. Its eye sockets blazed with hostile light as it assessed the scene, an imprisoned celestial being freed, a mortal daring to interfere with divine punishment. Violation detected, it boomed in a language Alara's translator barely parsed. Terminating interfering entity. Restoring containment protocols. The construct's arm reshaped into a blade of concentrated energy, and it lunged toward Alara with terrifying speed. Alara's hand flew to her plasma pistol, but before she could fire, Zira moved. Despite still being partially bound, the goddess threw herself between Alara and the construct, her 3 freed arms spreading wide as power erupted from her navy blue skin. A shimmering barrier of blue-gold energy materialized around them both just as the construct's blade struck, the impact sending shockwaves through the temple. "You will not touch her." Zira's mental voice was no longer gentle. It carried the weight of eons and the fury of a being who had shaped stars. But Alara could feel the strain through their connection. Zira was still weakened, still partially imprisoned, and maintaining the barrier was draining what little strength she had recovered. They were trapped, protected but unable to escape, and the construct was already preparing another assault. "We have to finish the removal," Alara shouted over the sound of energy striking the barrier. "Now, while you're holding it back." Zira's galaxy eyes went wide with fear. "If we rush this, if you make a mistake with the core pieces, then you scatter." "I know," Alara interrupted, already pulling out her tools. "But if we don't try, that thing kills me and reseals you. I'd rather risk everything than accept that." She positioned herself behind Zira, hands already moving to the critical segments, along the goddess's spine where the suit's power core integrated with her essence. "Trust me," Alara whispered. "Trust what we've built these past days. Trust my gentleness." The construct struck again, harder, and a section of the barrier flickered. Zira made her decision in that heartbeat, using her freed hands to guide Alara's to the exact points that needed releasing. They worked in desperate synchronicity. A dance they'd practiced, but never at this speed, never under this pressure. Alara's hands moved across Zira's back, finding connection points by touch and instinct as much as by her scanner's guidance. Each release sent feedback through their mental link flashes of Zira's memories, glimpses of nebulas being born, of civilizations Alara's species would never know. The construct battered at the barrier relentlessly, and through their connection, Alara felt Zira's pain, her terror not for herself but for the small human working so frantically to free her. "If I scatter," Zira's mental voice came soft beneath the chaos, "know that these days with you have been worth 7,000 years of imprisonment. You reminded me why I loved mortals enough to defy my kin." The barrier failed just as Alara's fingers found the final core segment. The construct's blade came crashing down, and Zira, despite the risk in her fragmenting essence, pulled Alara against her chest with all 4 arms, curling her larger body around the human completely. The blade struck the crystalline suit's core instead, and Zira's scream of agony tore through both the physical and mental space, a sound of cosmic suffering that brought Ilara to tears even as she worked. "Almost there," Ilara sobbed, her hand steady despite her tears. "Hold on, Zira, hold on for me." With a twist and a harmonic pulse, the core segment released and Ilara immediately channeled its energy through her modified tools, creating a feedback loop that she directed outward. The blast caught the construct square in its chest, and it staggered backward as Zira, suddenly fully freed, blazed with blue-gold radiance and unleashed 7,000 years of restrained power in one devastating wave that shattered the ancient Guardian into harmless fragments. In the aftermath, silence fell over the temple like a blessing. Zira stood fully revealed for the first time in millennia 9 feet of graceful power, her navy blue skin glowing with inner starlight, blonde hair floating in an ethereal wind only she could feel, all 4 arms moving with fluid purpose. But Ilara, collapsing from exhaustion and adrenaline crash, noticed something else. Zira was diminished. Her light wasn't as bright as the moment of her unleashing, her form slightly translucent at the edges. 7,000 years of imprisonment had taken a toll that freedom couldn't instantly reverse. As darkness claimed Ilara's vision, she felt herself being lifted with impossible gentleness, cradled against a chest that thrummed with cosmic energy. "Rest now, my brave mortal." Zira's voice was tender in her mind. "I have you." Ilara woke in the Meridian's crew quarters to find Zira sitting beside her makeshift bed, all 4 hands carefully folded, watching her with an expression of such profound wonder that it made the human's breath catch. "You're awake," the goddess breathed, and one hand reached out to brush hair from Ilara's forehead with butterfly-like touch. "I was afraid. The strain was too much. I have never felt fear like this, Ilara. When that construct's blade fell, when I thought I might lose you—" She trailed off, galaxy eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Ilara caught that hand, pressing it against her cheek. "We saved each other," she said simply. "That's how this works." Zira's expression transformed into something radiant, and she carefully helped Ilara sit up, supporting her with a gentleness that belied her cosmic nature. They worked on repairing the Meridian together over the following days, and it was a revelation. Zira could still reshape matter with thought, though it tired her now, while Ilara handled the technical systems integration. They made an extraordinary team, divine power meeting mortal ingenuity, creating solutions neither could have achieved alone. But it was the quiet moments Ilara treasured most, evenings when Zira would ask endless questions about human customs, mornings when they'd share breakfast and Zira would marvel at the simple act of eating for pleasure rather than necessity. The goddess was learning to be something other than divine, and watching her discover simple joys was intoxicating. One night, Ilara found Zira on the temple's highest peak, gazing up at stars she'd once been able to touch, her blonde hair streaming in the wind like a banner. The goddess's expression held such longing and loss that Ilara's heart ached. "Will you leave me when your ship is repaired?" Zira asked without turning, her voice small in a way that cosmic beings should never sound. "Return to your people and your life while I remain here, free but forgotten?" Ilara climbed to stand beside her, and then deliberately took one of Zira's hands, then another, then the third and fourth, intertwining all their fingers together. "I went to space looking for something," she said, meeting those galaxy eyes without hesitation. "Discovery, purpose, meaning in the vast dark. I think I found all of that in you. You asked me to take off your prison gently, now I'm asking you. Come with me. See the universe again, but this time not as a goddess performing duties, not as a prisoner counting stars. Come with me as Zira, as someone who chooses her own path. Come with me as mine." Their kiss was gentle at first, a careful meeting of mortal and divine. But it deepened as Zira pulled Ilara closer with all four arms, holding her as if she were the most precious thing in existence. The goddess tasted like ozone and starlight, and when they finally parted, both were trembling. "I choose you," Zira whispered against Ilara's lips. "I choose this smaller existence with you over cosmic power alone. I choose gentleness and partnership and mornings sharing breakfast. I choose love, Ilara Voss. I choose you." When the Meridian lifted off days later, it carried two passengers standing together on the bridge, hand in hand and hand in hand, watching the stars streak past as they jumped to FTL. "Where shall we go?" Zira asked, her voice filled with the wonder of someone seeing the universe anew. Ilara smiled, reaching up to cup that beautiful navy blue cheek. "Everywhere, together, gently." And as they sailed into the cosmic unknown, a goddess and her human, they discovered that the greatest freedom wasn't power, it was choosing who to share your existence with, one gentle touch at a time. The crash had been violent, tearing through the Sara 7's atmosphere like a meteor before the Meridian carved a burning scar across the misty plains. Captain Ilara Voss dragged herself from the wreckage, ribs aching, distress beacon flickering, weakly against the planet's strange electromagnetic interference. She had maybe 3 days of supplies, and rescue could take weeks if the signal even reached anyone. The mist clung to everything here, luminescent and oddly warm, swirling around ancient structures that jutted from the landscape like the bones of sleeping giants. Ilara's scanners picked up unusual energy signatures from the largest structure, a temple of impossible architecture, where walls seemed to phase between dimensions, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. She needed power cells, anything, to boost her signal, and those energy readings suggested technology far beyond her understanding. The temple's interior stole her breath. Massive columns spiraled upward into darkness, and at the chamber's heart stood a statue that made her forget her pain entirely. The figure was enormous, perhaps 9 feet tall, with 4 elegant arms, positioned in a gesture that seemed both commanding and pleading. Her skin was the deepest navy blue Ilara had ever seen, shimmering like ocean depths catching moonlight, and cascading over her shoulders was hair of pure golden blonde that seemed frozen mid-flow as if caught in an eternal wind. But it was the eyes that transfixed Ilara even closed. They seemed to contain swirling galaxies behind the crystalline surface that encased the entire figure. The suit was seamless, translucent, yet impenetrable, covered in hairline geometric patterns that pulsed with faint inner light. Ilara reached out, fingers trembling, to touch the smooth crystal surface. The moment her hand made contact, everything changed. Cracks spider-webbed from her touch point, racing across the crystalline prison with sounds like breaking ice. The statue's eyes flew open, actual swirling galaxies of violet and silver, and focused on Ilara with terrifying intensity. Then, the being inside gasped, a sound that reverberated through Ilara's bones and seemed to shake the very air. The captain stumbled backward, hand reaching for her plasma pistol, but froze when a voice entered her mind. It wasn't invasive or forceful, it was desperate, trembling, achingly vulnerable. "Please, you've broken the seal. After 7,000 years of silence. Please, human, take it off gently. If you shatter it completely, I scatter. I'll become nothing but dust across the stars." Ilara's hand fell away from her weapon as she stared at this impossible being. The figure's lips hadn't moved, but tears actual. Crystalline tears were forming in those galaxy eyes. A goddess, or whatever she was kneeling now despite her restraints. Navy blue hands pressed against the inner surface of her prison, blonde hair floating as if suspended in water. "I am Zira," the voice whispered in her mind, broken and beautiful. "I have been alone for so long. Please, I am begging you. Be gentle with me. And in that moment, looking into eyes that held the birth and death of stars, Ilara Voss made a decision that would change everything she thought she knew about divinity, humanity, and the vast spaces between them. Ilara spent the first hours simply listening, her hand pressed against the crystalline suit as Zira's story poured into her mind in fragments of memory and emotion. The being before her was a celestial architect, one of the ancient entities who shaped nebulas and guided young civilizations toward enlightenment. But 7 millennia ago, during what Zira called the ethereal wars, her kin had divided over a fundamental question. Did mortals deserve divine guidance, or should they forge their own path through the cosmos? Zira had chosen to stand with mortals, to nurture rather than abandon, and for that choice her own siblings had crafted this prison, a crystalline suit that didn't just contain her body but fed parasitically on her very essence, draining her power slowly across the ages until she would eventually fade into nothing. Through their connection, Ilara saw the mechanics of the prison with horrifying clarity. The suit wasn't simply bonded to Zira's skin, it had fused with her consciousness itself, threading through her being like roots through soil. Each crystalline segment was anchored to a specific aspect of her essence, her memories, her emotions, her cosmic awareness. Removing it incorrectly wouldn't just kill her. It would unravel her existence across multiple dimensions, scattering what made Zira Zira to the stellar winds until nothing remained but dissipating energy. The process would take careful precision, harmonic resonance, and time, all things Ilara had precious little of. Her scanner confirmed what Zira had reluctantly shared. The suit's energy core alone contained enough power to repair the meridian, boost the distress signal, and guarantee Ilara's survival. She could extract it, leave this being to her slow dissolution, and live. But then Zira did something that shattered Ilara's calculations. The goddess reached out with one partially freed hand, the upper right, where Ilara's touch had cracked the crystal enough for limited movement, and gently took the human's smaller hand in her own. The navy blue skin was impossibly smooth, warm like sun-heated stone, and when their palms touched, Ilara felt the faint pulse of something ancient and profound. "I understand your dilemma," Zira whispered mentally, her voice no longer just desperate but achingly gentle. "You owe me nothing. I am a stranger, a relic of a forgotten age, but I must ask anyway. Please don't leave me to fate alone. I have watched civilizations rise and fall through this prison. I have counted every star in my view 7 million times. I have forgotten what kindness feels like." Her fingers, long and elegant, intertwined with Ilara's, and the human felt tears on her own cheeks. Though she couldn't say why, the decision crystallized in Ilara's mind with surprising clarity. She was an explorer, yes, but more than that. She was human, and humanity had always been defined by its choice to reach out rather than turn away. "I'll help you," Ilara said aloud, her voice rough in the temple's silence. "But we do this smart. I'll free you, but I need enough of the core's power to send a signal. We'll both get out of this." Zira's galaxy eyes widened, and for the first time in 7,000 years, something like hope blazed across her features. She pulled Ilara's hand to her chest, pressing it against the crystal over her heart, if celestial beings had hearts. "Then teach me what gentleness means again," Zira breathed. "I have forgotten everything but pain and loneliness. Show me there is more." Part 3. The delicate process. The preparation consumed 3 days, during which Ilara became intimately familiar with every contour of Zira's imprisonment. She cannibalized her ship's quantum scanner and precision tools, creating instruments delicate enough to work with celestial matter, while Zira taught her the harmonic frequencies that resonated with the crystalline structure. The goddess's voice had grown stronger in Ilara's mind, less desperate and more curious, asking endless questions about human life, about what the universe looked like beyond her temple prison. In turn, Alara learned to read the subtle shifts in Zira's bioluminescence, how the navy blue skin would pulse brighter when she was pleased, dimmer when memories of her imprisonment surfaced. They worked in a rhythm that felt almost like a dance, and Alara found herself staying awake longer than she should to keep talking with this impossible being who treated every detail of human existence like a precious gift. The mapping process demanded unprecedented physical closeness. To understand where the suit fused with Zira's essence, Alara had to trace every connection point with her hands, running her fingers along the crystalline surface while Zira guided her mental awareness to the anchor points beneath. Alara worked her way up one of Zira's forearms, feeling where crystal became indistinguishable from skin, noting the way Zira's breath caught. Did she even need to breathe? When sensitive areas were touched, moving to the goddess's shoulders required Alara to stand on salvaged crates, bringing them nearly face to face. Zira's blonde hair floated around them both, and this close, Alara could see that the navy blue skin was marked with constellation-like patterns, faint traceries of light that flowed like slow rivers dot when Alara's fingers traced the curve of Zira's neck, searching for connection points near the throat. The goddess made a sound, half sigh, half sob, that resonated through their mental link with overwhelming emotion. "I had forgotten," Zira whispered, her mental voice trembling, "what it feels like to be touched without cruelty, without the intent to bind and break. Your hands are so gentle, Alara, so impossibly gentle." One of her freed hands came up, hesitant, to barely touch Alara's cheek. The contact sent warmth flooding through the human's body, and she found herself leaning into that touch without thinking. "You could have left me," Zira continued, galaxy eyes searching Alara's face with desperate intensity. "Taken the power core and abandoned me to dissolution. Why stay? Why risk yourself for a being you don't know, whose very existence challenges everything your species believes about the universe?" Alara caught Zira's hand against her cheek, holding it there as she met those swirling galaxy eyes without flinching. "Because you asked me to be gentle," she said simply. "Anyone who can ask for gentleness, who remembers to say please after 7,000 years of suffering, deserves to receive it. That's what makes us human. We choose kindness even when it costs us." Something profound shifted in.